It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Thursday, July 17th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Clouds this morning. Hot and humid. Thunderstorms this afternoon. High 94. Tonight and overnight, some clouds, low 75. And then Friday, sun and clouds, high 86. If you are walking out the door with us right now, 79 and cloudy in Huntington out on Long Island. It's 75 and cloudy in New Brunswick over in New Jersey. And it's 80 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios.
This is the Top 5 at 5.
There was a deadly lightning strike in New Jersey. So what really is in the Epstein files? Zohran charms lawmakers in D.C. A former top cop says the NYPD's run like the mob. And more stories of heroism amid the flash floods in New Jersey. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. One person killed, several others rushed to the hospital last night after a lightning strike at an outdoor archery range in Jackson, New Jersey. Police say they received a slew of calls. This was about 7 o'clock last night after multiple people were struck by lightning at the Black Knight Bowbenders Archery Range on Perryville Road.
What's going on there?
I believe a whole bunch of us were just struck by lightning.
How many
I have
people?
like 6 people down.
6 people? Or
I have a bunch of people down.
Multiple rigs for 7 patients struck by lightning. 656 Prineville Road, the Black Knight Bowbenders.
Now, among the people that were hit were some kids. There was some sort of scouting group that was there on the archery range. There was no rain, by the way. No real louds of claps of thunder beforehand. Gene Grodux is a longtime club member, a spokesman for the Black Knight Bowbenders, and he says they were having a class night last night when that bolt hit.
It was insanely loud, and the earth exploded, and there was dirt flying everywhere. That's where the lightning hit.
The strike hit the ground near this group, which appeared to be a scouting organization. 61-year-old man, identified as an instructor. He died from his injuries. 6 others, we're getting varying numbers, but sometimes with this you do. So 6 others were being told have injuries. They were rushed to nearby hospitals, but they were alert and conscious when they were taken. Here's more from that instructor last night.
When it hit and I turned around, there was at least 7, maybe 8 people on the ground flat. I did do chest compressions on him myself, but he was pretty much unresponsive, right from the start.
Children were as young as 11 years old. The mayor of Jackson, New Jersey, said he was home when he heard a single loud bang, but he says it wasn't raining at the time, and he didn't hear any claps of thunder before this all took place in Jackson, New Jersey. Unfortunately, 1 dead. We have not had an update on those who were injured, but again, we were told they were alert and conscious as they were brought to local hospitals last night, so we hope for the best. 5:03, city officials rebuffing a lawsuit that's been filed against Mayor Adams in top NYPD brass by a former police commissioner. Tom Donnellan alleges the department was run like a criminal enterprise, like the mob. The suit claims the NYPD, with the mayor looking the other way, engaged in fabricated promotion, systematic fraud, retaliatory policing, and the obstruction of internal investigations by high-ranking officials. Mayor Adams, he's shrugging this all off.
We know it's a political season, but it's baseless, it's disgruntled.
Donnellan, who headed the NYPD for less than 2 months after Eddie Caban resigned over corruption allegations, also says police officials used his official stamp without his consent to carry out corrupt scheme. Donnellan argues he lost pay as others got undeserved raises. A former deputy commissioner with the NYPD says Donnellan is pushing back because he lost his job so quickly.
Commissioner Donnellan was removed because of his performance, not because of a criminal enterprise that anybody was
Yeah, but that lawsuit out there this morning. 504, Democratic mayoral nominee Zohran Mamdani. He went down to D.C. yesterday, counting and courting on support from Democrats. He had some mixed results while he was in Washington yesterday.
Queens and Bronx Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez hosted a breakfast meet and greet with Mamdani in Washington. Attendees included locals who have already endorsed Mamdani, including Jerry Nadler and Nydia Velasquez, and others from across the party. Not everyone who attended was a Mamdani supporter. New Jersey Democrat Josh Gottheimer told The Hill he doesn't back Mamdani's agenda, but was there to learn how to better communicate and share his own message, something Mamdani won praise for in his primary win. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
Yeah, so some Democrats trying to get in the way of Zohran Mamdani becoming the next mayor. And then you have others who are resigned maybe to the fact that he will be the next mayor. Governor Kathy Hochul says she wants Zohran Mamdani to smooth out his relationship with the Jewish community.
Hochul says she met with the Democratic nominee.
I said you have a lot of healing to do with the Jewish community. Many of your words have been hurtful and hateful to people in their interpretation of it.
Meanwhile, Hochul says she's telling New York City business leaders she seems to have become a therapist in chief since Mamdani's Democratic primary win. She says she's spoken to hundreds of business leaders, urging them not to leave or overreact and that everything will be okay no matter what happens in the mayor's race. Mamdani has vowed to raise taxes on the wealthy in the city if elected mayor. Lisa G., 77 WABC News.
Governor Hochul, by the way, pushing back against raising taxes on the ultra-wealthy. Last night, she said she would not let that happen in Albany. And then, of course, there's this poll that everybody's been combing over the last 24, 48 hours that has it essentially as a three-way race between Zohran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, and Curtis Sliwa. They're all within striking distance of each other, with Mayor Adams bringing up the rear. Of course, it is only July 17th, and you know how the news cycle, the election cycle works. 24 hours can feel like 10 minutes in this race for mayor. No doubt it'll be fascinating. Of course, keep it here, 77 WABC. WABC News Time 509. Let's go down to Washington. President Trump says the media, some Republicans wasting time on what he calls the Epstein hoax. Trump was asked about the contentious DOJ investigation into the late sex trafficker that even some Republicans have questioned.
It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net. And so they try and do the Democrats' work.
The president says he's surprised some Republicans got duped, followed the Democratic playbook of going after him with false stories, comparing Epstein to the Russian hoax. The president again stood by Attorney General Pam Bondi, saying she only released what she thought was credible from the Epstein files.
I lost a lot of faith in certain people, I lost, because they got duped by the Democrats. The Democrats are good for nothing. She says, I gave you all the credible information, and if she finds any more credible information, she'll give that too. What more can she do than that?
James Flippin has some interesting thoughts on this whole Epstein file, and he is co-hosting Sid and Friends in the morning starting at 6 a.m. with John Katsimatidis, so make sure you tune in coming up at 6 o'clock. President Trump was signing a bill targeting fentanyl trafficking. Families impacted by the fentanyl crisis stood behind the president at the White House yesterday during a bill signing ceremony.
And illicit drugs decimated American communities and left us with the largest law enforcement challenge in our country's history.
The White House says they've declared an all-out war against dealers and traffickers. The Halt All Lethal Trafficking of Fentanyl Act classifies all fentanyl-related substances as Schedule I drugs.
On day one of the Trump administration, we declared an all-out war on the dealers, smugglers, traffickers, and cartels.
The president blaming former President Biden for the increase in fentanyl coming across the border into the U.S., killing Americans.
This open borders nightmare flooded our country with fentanyl and with people that shouldn't be here, some of the worst people on earth.
He says it means harsher penalties for people convicted of fentanyl-related offenses. The president says he's trying to curb that flow into the U.S. 511. Meanwhile, President also talking about Iran yesterday as he had reporters at the White House. He says Iran wants to negotiate badly. During an Oval Office meeting with the Prime Minister of Bahrain, the president said Iran should have made a deal with the U.S. over its nuclear ambitions before we bomb the hell out of them.
We're going to be talking about a lot of different things, including the most perfect military maneuver that anybody's seen probably in 50 years, which took place a few weeks ago, and Iran knocked out their entire potential nuclear capacity.
The Prime Minister of Bahrain echoing Trump's comments, saying the ball is definitely in Iran's court now.
We've had a tremendous relationship, I have personally, with Bahrain over the years, and has been a fantastic ally. And anything they needed, we helped them, and anything we needed, they helped us.
The president gave no timetable yesterday for Iran to come to the bargaining table with the U.S. 5:12, while we're overseas, Russia has launched yet another assault on Ukraine with drones and missiles, with the northeastern city seeing at least 17 strikes in 20 minutes yesterday. Correspondent Keir Simons reports it comes as President Trump says he's giving Russia 50 days, well, it's now down, I think, to 48, to make a deal for peace in Ukraine or face 100% tariffs.
There are, according to the Russians, feelings of uncertainty about what exactly the White House is asking for. That's from Russian ministers suggesting that this 50-day deadline isn't clear, that it's not clear exactly what is expected there. President Zelensky has been praising the new approach of the White House, saying the Russians only respond to pressure. But of course, we know that President Putin is a man who does not easily yield to pressure. The White House at first saying that that conversation did happen, but that President Trump wasn't pushing for it, wasn't suggesting there should be more killing. And then questioned yesterday on camera, President Trump was asked whether President Zelensky should hit Moscow, and he said no, he should not.
Yeah, there was a report that the president had encouraged Zelensky to hit Russia hard, but he says these tariffs, 100% tariffs, will go into place if Putin doesn't come to the bargaining table with Ukraine in, well, it's now down to 48 days. 5:13. Federal investigators in Louisiana taking the wraps off of massive investigation into crooked cops. They were allegedly paid big bucks to file fraudulent police reports, which named illegal immigrants as victims of crime.
So that fraudulent visa applications could be submitted to the United States government.
U.S. Attorney Alexander Van Hook says the police were paid as much as $5,000 for the forgery. 3 current and former Louisiana police chiefs are under arrest. So's the owner of a local Subway franchise who was called a facilitator in these court papers.
The money that was paid to the corrupt law enforcement agents was significant.
Yeah, Van Hook says that police were paid to forge crime reports naming illegal immigrants as victims so they could be used as part of a visa application. 5:14, voters disapprove of the Trump administration's decision to deport illegal immigrants to countries other than their own.
According to a study conducted by Quinnipiac University, 64% of respondents disapprove of the deportation flights, while 30% said they approve of the practice. The poll also found that 39% of voters approve of the way ICE is enforcing immigration laws, while 57% disapprove, and 4% did not offer an opinion. I'm Brian Shook.
Okay, in a moment, we will hear about a Queens high school student who is going to be released from ICE custody. We'll get into that story in just a moment. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Justin Ellick, I know it was an incredibly busy night last night, right?
Yeah. Really, really busy.
Do you think you can fill an entire 2 minutes with what has happened in the last?
Yeah, thank God the ESPYs were happening, actually.
Oh, okay. Oh, the ESPYs. So thank God for that.
Yeah, if I just run through the entire list of awards here, should go about 90 seconds, so we'll see.
Shane Gillis hosted last night,
Yeah,
right?
he did. Big Birds fan, Philadelphia Eagles fan, one of my brethren in that regard. And the Eagles took home some hardware last night, the Eagles and Saquon Barkley. The 2025 ESPYs did take place last night from Los Angeles, celebrating the greatest athletes and moments in the wide world of sports. Best play of the year does go to Saquon Barkley in his backwards hurdle against the Jacksonville Jaguars for the Philadelphia Eagles. Best athlete in women's sports, that'll go to Simone Biles in USA Gymnastics. Best athlete for men's sports, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from the OKC Thunder, your NBA MVP. Best record-breaking performance goes to Alex Ovechkin, NHL all-time goals leader for the Washington Capitals. And best team, that goes to a little club outside of Philadelphia called the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFL. Saquon Barkley gets your best NFL player from the Eagles. Best MLB player goes to Shohei Ohtani from the Dodgers, of course. Best NHL player goes to Leon Draisaitl from the Edmonton Oilers. Yeah, that's a little bit surprising, right?
Yeah. Is this kind of like... what was the name of that award show where the winners would show up? Do other people show up to this thing, or just the winners show up?
I know Saquon Barkley wasn't there. He did not accept his award for best play.
Because People Choice, that's the award show. They would tell the winners ahead of time, so then they would sit in the audience. I imagine that's probably the same for the ESPYs.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they get a heads up. I'm sure they do get a heads up. But Saquon wasn't there last night. He sent up one of the Eagles' offensive lineman, Jordan Mailata, to accept his award. I'm not sure. I mean, I obviously didn't watch the event in its entirety.
Or at all, probably.
Yeah, at all. Yeah. Woke up to a bunch of notifications this morning. Go Eagles, best team. I'm like, what do you mean? Best golfer, though, nominated goes to Scotty Scheffler. And speaking of Scheffler, he unsurprisingly heads into another major as the betting favorite. Bettors are largely supporting European players ahead of the action, teeing off from Northern Ireland at the Open Championship. Sportsbooks are handicapping accordingly. Scheffler tops the odds board at plus 500, followed by McIlroy plus 700 and John Rahm at plus 1,200, according to ESPN Bet Lines. Bryson DeChambeau, he's plus 1,800. It represents the only other American in the top 8 shortest odds, with European golfers occupying the next 4 spots. Action got underway very early this morning from Royal Portrush Golf Club in Portrush, Northern Ireland, with the first group heading out around 1:35 a.m. Eastern Time earlier this morning. Scheffler just got off about 8 minutes ago for his opening round, off number 1 there for Scheffler. And coming back from the MLB All-Star break here tomorrow, right? Today's Thursday, tomorrow's Friday. So we get the Mets and the Yankees back for the weekend, getting their second halves underway. The Mets will welcome in the Reds for the weekend tomorrow night starting, and the Yankees are in Atlanta, staying in Atlanta, I should say, for they will visit the Braves over the weekend. That is your Sports Gnome. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:20. A Queens high school student will be released from ICE after being held for more than a month in Texas.
An immigration judge in Texas granted Derlis Snyder release on bond weeks after the 11th grader at Grover Cleveland High School was taken to an ICE detention center in Livingston, Texas. He was arrested during a scheduled immigration court appearance, making him the second New York City public school student to be taken into ICE custody this year. The New York Legal Assistance Group has been working on Snyder's case this entire time, saying their happiness over Snyder's release does not erase what they see as an unjust detainment. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
President Trump, he really doesn't like the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, but he says he's not planning to fire him. In the Oval Office yesterday, the president asked about reports that he communicated with Republicans about moving the Fed chair, removing him.
No, I talked about the concept of fire him. I said, what do you think? Almost every one of them said I should. But I'm more conservative than they are.
Yeah, he said it's highly unlikely he'll fire Powell. I don't think he has the power, by the way, to do that. But he went on to criticize Powell's job performance. He says he could step down on what he calls possible fraud over Powell's $2.5 billion renovation plan at the Federal Reserve Building.
He's a terrible Fed chair. I was surprised he was appointed. I was surprised, frankly, that Biden put him in and extended him. I don't rule out anything, but I think it's highly unlikely unless he has to leave for fraud. I mean, it's possible there's fraud involved with the $2.5 $2.7 billion renovation.
The president's been highly critical of Powell's refusal to cut interest rates. Meanwhile, speculation on the future of the Fed chair was driving some numbers on Wall Street yesterday.
Initial reports that Trump's firing of Powell seemed imminent came out during morning trading, sparking a mini sell-off. But when Trump clarified that he had no plans to fire Powell, the markets quickly rebounded, proving the old axiom that investors like certainty. The president has been highly critical of Powell's refusal to cut interest rates. I'm Brian Shook.
522 real estate investors from China, largest group of foreign buyers of residential property in the U.S. That does not sit well with Florida Republican Senator Rick Scott.
Every Chinese citizen is responsible by law to spy on Americans. Okay, so why are we allowing them in our country and buying our land?
National Association of Realtors says Chinese clients purchased about $14 billion worth of homes in the U.S. between April 2024 and March of this year. That's an 83% jump from the previous year.
We create more opportunities for Americans to buy homes. That's what we should be doing. We should be doing everything we can up here to help Americans afford a home, get a great education for their kids, get a job, and keep them safe.
California tops the list of states with 36% of all residential transactions completed by Chinese nationals. That's more than any other foreign group. 523. Texas death row inmate Robert Robertson has received an execution date of October 16th. The judge's order comes despite pleas from his defense team, who continue to raise claims about his murder conviction.
There's no reason to be setting a date for Mr. Robertson, who is among the few who has live appeals.
That's Robertson's defense attorney says there's a mountain of evidence against the now debunked shaken baby syndrome, which was used to convict her client. They did not sway, though, the judge, who sided with the Texas Attorney General.
There's perhaps a political reason.
He's been sparring with state lawmakers who feel an innocent man is about to be put to death. 524, this happens every single summer, but worth mentioning, blood supplies running low all across the country. Nearly 20% of blood centers just in the West reporting that they're down to a one-day supply or less. So, of course, they're asking everyday Americans to roll up their sleeves and donate blood.
We are in need of every blood type, but critically low right now is O types and A type.
Now, the summer, apparently, you'll see a spike in surgeries where people have time to take off. Doctors will do those surgeries. The summer's also a traditional slowdown in donations as people are on things like summer vacation. So the blood banks get awfully low, but just a day supply, that's really low.
My 187th donation. So it kind of really hits you when someone's like, I'm alive today because of people like you.
Yeah, so they need those blood donations. If you have time, go roll up your sleeve. COVID is on the rise across the country, especially so in California. Right now, the Sacramento region, the Bay Area, the Central Valley have high levels of the virus in their wastewater.
This message isn't meant to alarm anyone or to cause panic or to give you PTSD from the last few years. It's really meant as a reminder that COVID is very, very varied right now.
I've had this experience, maybe you have, in the last couple of weeks, that I know people that have COVID. I guess they're still testing themselves for it, or they get really sick, so they want to see what it is. So that's an infectious disease expert who says some people are experiencing mild symptoms while others are still falling pretty seriously ill. Many recent COVID cases are linked to this new variant. It's called Nimbus, most notable for causing what's described as a razor blade throat. Well, isn't that lovely? Along with fever, body aches, and cough. 526, nicotine pouches have growing in popularity, but so are accidental poisonings. Kids are getting their mouths on the sweet-tasting products, making them sick.
Have you ever seen a toddler? They pick something up. First thing they do, they're slobbering on it, they put it in their mouth. Their sensory input really is through their mouth.
That's Dr. Sharon Varney with the Texas Poison Center. He says they get calls all the time regarding nicotine exposure to kids, and he says it requires emergency care.
That little tin looks like candy or looks like something that they're curious about. They're going to probably put one or two in their mouth.
Yeah, so he's saying you got to be careful. If you got these pouches, you got to hide them or not do it in front of the kids.
Nausea and vomiting are the first signs. And then they're going to have a very rapid heart rate to the point where they can have seizures.
A new study in the journal Pediatrics shows that the rate of accidental poisonings linked to nicotine pouches increased increased by nearly 800% from 2020 to 2023. Sean Diddy Combs is looking to rehabilitate himself before he receives his sentence this fall.
According to a report by TMZ, the hip-hop mogul has entered 2 programs to combat his issues with drugs and domestic violence. One of those programs is known as STOP, which stands for Specialized Treatment for Optimized Programming, and it's meant to prevent sexual assault and domestic abuse. Diddy is also participating in a drug abuse program and is undergoing therapy. Diddy was found guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. He's expected to remain behind bars in New York while awaiting sentencing on October 3rd. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour. Talking the news with Noam Laden. All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now, Talking the News with Noam on 77 WABC.
Oh, yeah, that's me. Good morning. It is Thursday, July 17th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Clouds this morning, hot and humid, and then we're going to see some thunderstorms this afternoon. The high's going to be 94. Tonight and overnight, some clouds, low 75, and then the weather gets better for the weekend, so we like that. Less humid on Friday, sun and clouds, the high 86. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. It's 79 cloudy in Huntington out on Long Island. It's 75 and cloudy in New Brunswick over in New Jersey, and it's already 79 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 5:38. The nation's largest police force is criminal at its core. That according to a new federal lawsuit by former interim New York City Police Commissioner Thomas Donnellan, who says the NYPD, when he was in charge, functioned as a racketeering enterprise at the direction of Mayor Adams. In addition to Adams, this lawsuit names Deputy Mayor for Public Safety Kaz Daltrey, Chief of Department John Schell, and former Deputy Commissioner Tariq Shepard. Adams dismissing this 251-page lawsuit as baseless and calling Donnellan disgruntled. Adams, you'll remember, appointed Donnellan interim commissioner back in September of 2024. This was about for 3 months after Eddie Caban resigned the post following an FBI search of his home. Here was the mayor yesterday.
Baseless, disgruntled employee would be played out in court. It's baseless. This is the season where you're going to see a lot of this stuff. People wait until this time of the season. They know it's a political season, but it's baseless.
Donnellan says he was commissioner in name only, and true authority remained with an inner circle of Adams loyalists. He says the defendants undermined Donnellan's authority by blocking his merit-based promotions and instead elevating unvetted individuals of their choosing. Donnellan accused the defendants of obstructing justice by sabotaging internal oversight efforts and canceling Donnellan's meetings, altering his schedule, and even spying on his communications. Well, it's all, of course, not good for Mayor Adams as he runs for re-election. Some political pundits weighing in yesterday.
It really undercuts his argument that he is the pro-police mayor. It's a good day for Mamdani because it just shows what he's running against, right? He's running against the corruption. He'll say Andrew Cuomo's corrupt. He'll say Eric Adams is corrupt. I'm the only one who's not corrupt.
Yeah, Mamdani himself, the Democratic nominee, he was in D.C. yesterday to meet with local lawmakers. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez hosting a breakfast meeting for her fellow members of Congress to spend time with Mamdani as he hopes to get their support. Local lawmakers from the tri-state did go and meet with Mamdani. Not everybody on board, but some right away say they were charmed by Zohran Mamdani, including Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez.
It's just beautiful to have someone who is so authentic. You know, that's money cannot buy that.
Other local lawmakers not ready to endorse the mayoral candidate, including Josh Gottheimer and Jerry Nadler. Senators Chuck Schumer, Kirsten Gillibrand, Hakeem Jeffries announcing that waiting on endorsing somebody in the race. But there were Democrats who met with Mamdani yesterday from all over the country. They just wanted to see who this guy was. One of them was Michigan Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, who says she thinks Zohran Mamdani is a lot like President Donald Trump.
He connected with the people of New York. He understands that people are hurting on affordability issues. Donald Trump and he both get out and they talk to people and they listen to people and they understand how people feel. And he's using social media the way that Donald Trump has.
Governor Kathy Hochul weighing in on the race yesterday. She was on MSNBC. She says that she can work with whoever wins, but is aligned with Mamdani on affordability. Now, she says she would get in the way of taxing the ultra-rich, which is one of the plans from Mamdani. She also wants to make sure that Mamdani reaches out to the Jewish community.
I said you have a lot of healing to do with the Jewish community. Many of your words have been hurtful and hateful to people in their interpretation of it. So job number one is to straighten that relationship out if you can.
The governor has yet to endorse anybody in the race for mayor. Andrew Cuomo, you'll remember on Monday, released a video with his formal announcement that he's back in the race. He says he's in it to win it. And now, unlike during the primary, he's giving interviews to anybody who throws a microphone in front of him. Yesterday, it was ABC News. The former governor says he told ABC yesterday that he grossly underestimated Mamdani right up until election night.
Stunned. That's why I looked stunned, because I was stunned. I was way ahead, 15 points ahead. Campaign played it overly safe. Yes, I was surprised. I was stunned.
He tried to tell Eyewitness News that he still believes there's a path for victory for him in the race. And the reporter doing this interview pushed back a little bit.
I don't believe New Yorkers believe in a socialist form of government or that it will work. I believe they want an alternative, and I believe I offer that alternative.
Well, then what happened in the primary? You lost by double digits.
Yeah, in the primary, in that field, yes. You had an explosion of young people who came out. I did not talk to them, if you will. I did not connect with them. General electorate, different game. More people vote, more Democrats, more independents, more Republicans, and it's a totally different game.
The former governor is betting that Mamdani's appeal will fade under scrutiny over the course of the summer and into the fall. Of course, the election in November. One other person very upset that Andrew Cuomo got back into the race was Mayor Adams, and he was on Katz and Cosby yesterday saying Andrew Cuomo did not win the primary, and that means he likely won't win a general election against Zohran Mamdani.
Andrew had a whole year, and we saw the polls had him up by 40 points. His team put out polls the day before the election that he was up by 10 points. He lost by 13 points. I've been saying this over and over again, that this is going to be about voter turnout. It's going to be about new voters. The energy that people are talking about they're seeing in the primary winners team is nowhere near the energy that I'm seeing throughout the city of those that don't want to go in the wrong direction.
That was the mayor on Katz and Cosby yesterday. The latest poll shows this race is totally a toss-up. In fact, you have Zohran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, and our own Curtis Sliwa essentially in a three-way race in this poll that came out yesterday. They're only just a few points apart, with the Mayor Adams, in a distant fourth place. All right, in a moment, we're going to tell you about a body that was found in Turkey and Caicos, solving what could be a mystery. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk and Justin Alec.
Thank you, Noam Laden. We'll start here, in Los Angeles. The 2025 ESPYs took place last night, celebrating the greatest athletes and moments in the wide world of sports. Best play of the year goes to Saquon Barkley and his backwards hurdle against the Jacksonville Jaguars for the Eagles. Best athlete in a women's sport, Simone Biles for the USA Gymnastics squad. Best athlete in a men's sport goes to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the MVP from the NBA and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Best record-breaking performance goes to Alex Ovechkin, and breaking the record for NHL all-time goals. Best team goes to the Philadelphia Eagles out of the NFL. Of course, your Super Bowl champs. Best NFL player, that again goes to Saquon Barkley from the Philadelphia Eagles. Best MLB player goes to Shohei Ohtani from the Dodgers. Best NHL player, surprisingly here, Leon Draisaitl from the Edmonton Oilers. And best golfer goes to Scotty Scheffler. Speaking of Scotty Scheffler, he unsurprisingly heads into another major as the betting favorite, but bettors are largely supporting Europe European players ahead of the action teeing off from Northern Ireland at the Open Championship, and sportsbooks are handicapping accordingly. Scheffler tops the odds board at plus 500, followed by McIlroy at plus 700 and John Rahm at plus 1,200, according to Bet Lines. Bryson DeChambeau is plus 1,800, represents the only other American in the top 8 shortest odds, with European golfers occupying the next 4 spots. Action got underway very early this morning from Royal Portrush Golf Club in Portrush, Northern Ireland, with the very first group heading out around 1:35 a.m. Eastern Time earlier this morning. Scheffler got off around 5:10 a.m. this morning, so about 40 minutes ago for his opening rounds. We'll keep track of him. And coming up next for our local MLB squads here, coming out of the All-Star break, both the Mets and the Yankees picking up action tomorrow night. The Mets will welcome in
You got to wait till tomorrow night?
Yeah.
So you had the ESPYs to do today during your sports report.
Yeah.
There was no games whatsoever, maybe a little golf overseas. Tomorrow, you won't even have the ESPYs, so I can't wait to see how you fill the 2 minutes of your sports report.
We're going to do a nice 18-hole breakdown of key takeaways from Scottie Scheffler's opening round.
The most intensive golf report you've ever heard.
Hey, listen, man. I mean, if you're going to tune into any golf tournament, this is the one you want to tune into. This one in the U.S. Open, these golfers are brought to their knees by the conditions out in Northern Ireland. I mean, at some point this weekend, you're going to see guys getting blown across fairways by the wind coming from the sea there. So, I mean, conditions call for a very exciting weekend out in Royal Portrush. The leader, I should say, or the eventual winner, more than likely, will be over par. So we'll keep an eye on that all weekend. But yes, baseball picking back up tomorrow, which is what we really care about. The Mets obviously still tied for first place in the NL East. Yanks still trailing the Toronto Blue Jays there heading into the second half. That is your Sports Gnome. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
Talk WABC News Time 5:50. The NYPD making a disturbing discovery inside a van that was involved in an accident. This was right here in Manhattan, 42nd and 10th Avenue. At first, the driver of this van tried to get rid of his keys and said he could not open the vehicle. But first responders noticed the strong smell of gasoline coming from the van, and they called the FDNY in as well. So these hazmat units came in, and they removed 76 20-pound propane cylinders from the back of this van, including 10 gallons of diesel as well. The driver arrested, facing several charges, including reckless endangerment. Why he had this all in the van, the NYPD has not just told us yet. A body found earlier this month in Turks and Caicos has been identified as a missing New York tourist, Brian Terrence. The thought was it was him. The Royal Turk and Caicos Islands Police Force putting out a statement yesterday saying the body was identified using dental records and an autopsy revealed no signs of trauma, and they say at this time there's no suspicion of foul play, but they're still trying to figure out what took place. Brian Terrence and his wife went on vacation in Turks and Caicos, and after the first day of vacation is when he went missing. They hired their own private investigator to figure out what took place.
They had a busy day that day. They went on a boat trip, and they came back or whatever, and then that evening she went to bed early at 7. He was in the room, and then she got up. She told me a few times he was there. And then when she got up that morning, she noticed he wasn't in the villa. She went to the management office and said, "Did you see my husband?" And that's when everything started.
So they were on vacation. Terrence was last seen on surveillance video walking away from his hotel on the morning of June 25th. The body was found on July 5th.
He made the turnabout in front of the Ritz-Carlton, and he walked towards the highway. But once he got to the highway, he made a left and another left into what seemed to be a half commercial, half residential warehouse.
Yeah, so the body found now 10 days later, finally identified. It took a while for them to identify the body because they just don't have the kind of police force on the island like you do here in New York City. It takes a while, bring the medical examiner in, but they say no suspicion of foul play. 5:53, let's bring it back home. A 31-year-old Bronx subway rider recovering after being stabbed in the stomach on a 4 train as it pulled into the 167th Street station about 10:40 6:45 p.m. The NYPD says the wanted man sat down next to his victim, initiated some sort of verbal dispute, and that's when he pulled out a sharp object, stabbed the victim in the stomach, and then ran off the subway. As you might guess, subway riders not happy to hear this is happening at their subway station.
You can't fall asleep on a train or have your phone. You have to pay attention at all times.
On edge, definitely on edge. And I done had incidents myself on trains before, you understand? But me being pregnant is also other people will come and protect me as well.
Riders say they see that the crime numbers are down, but they're still frightened when they ride the trains, especially at night.
There's a lot of mental illness on the train, you could tell, and you just have to pay attention to what's going on around you.
So far, cops have not caught up with that individual, have no motive for the crime. A 17-year-old girl under arrest in the stabbing death of another teen at a Bronx deli. We told you about this story earlier this week. The teen apparently grabbed a first aid kit, tried to help the 16-year-old after she was stabbed multiple times inside this deli on Boston Road in Williamsbridge on Tuesday afternoon.
She was holding my arm, grabbing my arm like this. I'm trying to make her calm down, but she wasn't calming down. And then feeling her pulse, and then her pulse going quick, slow. Once the EMT arrives, I check her pulse again. Pulse was gone.
Police say Aaliyah, who was pronounced dead at the hospital, tossed water on the 17-year-old. That started an argument, triggered the violence. The suspect is charged with murder and manslaughter.
I had to cry inside the store because seeing that, feeling like a life go away, like, it's the worst thing you can feel like, especially when you learn that she was a 16-year-old girl.
Yeah. 5:55. More turnover among prosecutors now inside the Southern District of New York.
Maureen Comey was fired from her post as assistant U.S. attorney inside the high-profile Manhattan-based federal prosecutor's office. Comey, the daughter of former FBI director James Comey, had been there more than a decade. She had been involved in the recent prosecution of Sean Diddy Combs, and her past work included the prosecutions of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. President Trump, who's frequently targeted James Comey on social media, is facing backlash over the Justice Department decision not to release more information on the Epstein case. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
Let's go up to Yonkers, where a phys ed teacher has been charged of harassment, one charge of endangering the welfare of a child. He was in Yonkers City Court yesterday. The allegations made against 59-year-old Matthew Hausman, who's from Somers. They say this all took place between October to April. The DA alleges Hausman sent predatory texts and harassed one of his female students for months. It also alleges he texted the victim that he had a schedule and that he could become a stalker. Well, parents hearing about this crime yesterday speaking out.
I really hope that they investigate and do not put this under the rug. These children are in danger, and this is unacceptable.
Yonkers Public School District not commenting on this case, but the DA urging anyone who may have had a similar interaction, and they worry there were others, to come forward and tell their stories. And a Plainfield, New Jersey animal shelter asking for donations after it lost everything in those flash floods on Monday. Sal Carano works for Hope for Paws, the Humane Society, says the water was 6 to 7 feet high in this shelter, and now there's a lot of repairs to be done.
We saved every single animal.
Yeah, the shelter ended up underwater. Everything was totaled. They've had people donate all kinds of food and things like that for the dog, but right now they need cash to make repairs.
This was approximately 6-7 feet of water. We swam through it.
Everything in our building was totaled. Luckily, the animals are okay, but we're back to basically square zero as an organization.
Yeah, the people who volunteered there came in the middle of the night to rescue these animals when they saw that the dog water was rising around their cages.
The community and just everybody has come together and given us a lot of physical supplies. Right now, we need monetary donations so we can rebuild.
Yeah, so the organization, if you want to know, it's called Hope for Paws.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77
WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?